There comes a moment in your life when the silence around you becomes louder than the noise inside you. And in that moment, you feel the truth burning in your chest. Your greatest enemy was never the world, never your circumstances, never the people who doubted you. The war has always been inside your mind. Every fear, every hesitation, every excuse you ever believed was a chain you placed on yourself. And the harsh reality is this: no one is coming to save you. No one is waking you up. No one is dragging you out of misery. No one is fighting your battles. You either rise or you remain broken. Strength is not built in comfort. It is carved in struggle. You conquer your mind by refusing weakness, by refusing laziness, by refusing the lies that whisper you're not enough. You become unstoppable the moment you decide that your life will no longer be controlled by emotions, but by discipline. Stand up, straighten your back, and declare war on the part of you that wants to stay small, because the world will bow to the man who first conquers himself. Discipline is the foundation of freedom. Without it, you'll forever be a slave to your emotions. People talk about wanting freedom, wanting a better life, wanting success, but they ignore the brutal truth. Freedom is not found in comfort, pleasure, or temporary motivation. Freedom is born from discipline, from the ability to command yourself when your emotions are screaming the opposite. Every day you wake up with two voices inside your head, one that pushes you toward greatness and one that whispers excuses, softness, weakness. Most people follow the second voice their entire lives and then wonder why they feel trapped, why they feel stuck, why nothing changes. They think they lack motivation. In reality, they lack discipline. Motivation is a spark, but discipline is the fire that keeps you moving when the spark dies, when you feel tired, when the world feels heavy. Discipline does not care how you feel. It demands action regardless of your emotional state, and the ones who master it become unstoppable. When you are disciplined, you don't wait for the perfect moment. You create it. You don't complain about obstacles. You confront them with clarity and power. You don't fall apart when life hits you. You tighten your fists, straighten your posture, and keep marching because you know the mission matters more than the discomfort. Discipline is not cruelty. It's self-respect. It's choosing long-term power over short-term pleasure. Your emotions will lie to you. They will tell you to rest when you need to work, quit when you need to push, give up when you're closest to breaking through. But discipline is the shield that protects you from your emotions. It's the internal law you live by, the code that says, I do what I must, not what I feel like. People misunderstand freedom. They equate it with doing whatever they want, whenever they want. That is not freedom. That is chaos, addiction, and regret disguised as freedom. True freedom is waking up with purpose. True freedom is knowing you can rely on yourself. True freedom is the ability to control your habits, your urges, your behavior. A man without discipline is like a car without a steering wheel, moving, but not in control, and eventually crashing. A man with discipline becomes the architect of his destiny. He chooses his direction, his actions, his results. He doesn't drift. He decides. Every dream you have, every goal you imagine, every version of yourself that inspires you, all of it requires discipline, not luck, not talent, discipline. You can have all the potential in the world, but without discipline, you will waste it. You can have the most brilliant ideas, but without discipline, they will die in your mind. You can desire success with all your heart, but without discipline, you will watch others achieve what you only fantasized about. Because discipline gives you the power to take the actions others avoid. It gives you the endurance to stay consistent when others quit. It gives you the courage to make sacrifices that weak men cannot make, and it's in those sacrifices that you forge true freedom. When you discipline yourself to wake up early, you gain extra hours of life. When you discipline yourself to train your body, you gain strength and confidence. When you discipline yourself to work on your dreams daily, you gain momentum and mastery. When you discipline your mind, you gain peace. And that peace is real freedom, the kind of freedom no one can take away. Without discipline, you become a prisoner of your moods. If you feel sad, you shut down. If you feel lazy, you stop. If you feel insecure, you hide. Your emotions become your jailers, locking you inside a life far below your potential. But discipline breaks those walls. Discipline tells your feelings. You don't decide my life, I do. It is the moment you take control back from the chaos inside you. It is the decision to become the master of your fate instead of the victim of your impulses. The truth is, discipline is painful in the beginning. It demands sacrifice. It demands effort. It demands discomfort. But the pain of discipline is temporary. It fades and it rewards you with strength. The pain of regret, however, lasts a lifetime. The pain of looking in the mirror and knowing you could have done more, could have been more, could have lived better, that pain never leaves. Discipline saves you from that future. It gives you a life you are proud of, a mind you trust, a path you control. So understand this deeply. If you want real freedom, you must earn it through discipline. You must decide that your future matters more than your excuses. You must command yourself when your emotions rebel. And when you do, when you conquer yourself, you will experience a freedom that weak men will never know. The freedom of knowing that you are unstoppable, unbreakable, and in control of your own destiny. Discipline is the foundation of freedom. Without it, you'll forever be a slave to your emotions. Every human being walks through life believing they are in control, yet most are ruled by impulses they don't even recognize. One moment they feel motivated, the next moment they feel tired. One day they are full of confidence, the next day they collapse into doubt. This emotional roller coaster becomes the prison they live in, and they never realize that discipline is the key that could have set them free. Discipline is the force that allows you to take action even when every feeling inside you begs you to stop. It is the ability to silence the noise of excuses, fears, and weakness. And once you learn to command yourself in moments where your emotions try to hijack your decisions, you discover a level of power that separates you from the average. Emotional people are unpredictable. They start things with enthusiasm but crumble at the first sign of discomfort. They blame external circumstances for what is actually an internal lack of structure. Without discipline, emotions run wild. Panic leads to paralysis. Sadness leads to isolation. Laziness leads to regret. But a disciplined mind experiences these emotions without surrendering to them. It acknowledges the feelings but refuses to obey them. Real freedom is not the absence of rules. It is the ability to choose your rules intentionally. When you build discipline, you build a structure around your goals. You build habits that move you forward, even on days you don't want to move. You build routines that sharpen your mind, strengthen your focus, and keep your path straight. Freedom is knowing you can trust yourself with your own life. It is knowing that you won't sabotage your progress the moment things get difficult. And that trust cannot exist without discipline. Most people think freedom means doing whatever they want, but that kind of fake freedom is exactly what traps them. They eat whatever they feel like, and their health deteriorates. They sleep whenever they feel tired, and their life lacks direction. They spend time on whatever entertains them and their potential rots. They make decisions based on feeling instead of principle, and then they wonder why their life feels chaotic and empty. Their emotions act as invisible chains, dragging them into cycles they can escape. The disciplined person, however, lives by a different code. He decides his actions before his emotions have a chance to interfere. He trains when he feels weak. He works when he feels uninspired. He keeps his word even when it becomes uncomfortable. And through this consistency, he earns a freedom most people can't imagine. The freedom to grow, the freedom to evolve, the freedom to shape his destiny without being derailed by every emotional wave. Discipline is not suppression, it is control. Emotions are not your enemy unless you allow them to dominate you. Discipline gives you the mental strength to feel deeply without being ruled by what you feel. The undisciplined mind reacts. The disciplined mind decides. Every great achievement in history was born from discipline, not emotion. Emotions fade, motivation disappears, excitement dies, but discipline endures. It carries you across long nights, difficult struggles, and painful failures. When you are disciplined, you do not crumble when life challenges you. You recalibrate and continue. You do not waste time drowning in self-pity. You adjust your strategy. You do not indulge in temporary pleasure that costs long-term success. You protect your future. The undisciplined mind lives in the moment. The disciplined mind builds a legacy. Freedom requires strength. It requires courage. It requires ownership of your life. And the path to that ownership is paved with disciplined choices repeated every single day. Discipline sharpens your identity. It builds your character. It shapes you into someone who doesn't break under pressure, but grows because of it. It gives you inner peace because you no longer fear your emotions, you master them. And when you master your emotions, you master your life. There will always be days when you don't feel like working. don't feel like fighting, don't feel like growing. But discipline is the voice that cuts through the haze and says, do it anyway. It is the force that reminds you that your feelings are temporary, but your goals are permanent. It reminds you that comfort is a trap, but growth is liberation. And once you understand this truth deeply, you realize that the world cannot control a person who has mastered himself. He becomes untouchable. He becomes unshakable. He becomes free. Without discipline, you are a prisoner of your impulses. With discipline, you become the commander of your destiny. And there is no greater freedom than that. Discipline is the foundation of freedom. Without it, you'll forever be a slave to your emotions. Most people don't realize how much of their life is dictated not by logic, not by purpose, not by ambition, but by raw emotion. They wake up tired and let that emotion decide their productivity. They feel discouraged and let that moment of weakness decide their future. They feel bored and let that temporary state decide whether they chase greatness or stay ordinary. And the most dangerous part is that they think it's normal. They think it's natural to live according to every emotional impulse that comes and goes. But there is nothing normal about letting your life be controlled by feelings that shift with the weather. A man without discipline becomes a puppet to his emotions, moved and tossed around by forces he doesn't control. A man with discipline becomes the master of his own destiny because he does what must be done regardless of what he feels in the moment. Your emotions are not stable. They fluctuate constantly. They are influenced by your environment, your habits, your fears, your past, your doubts. If you rely on them to shape your life, you will live in a cycle of inconsistency. One day you will feel unstoppable. The next you will feel broken. One day you will feel motivated. The next you will feel lost. And if your actions depend on those emotional highs and lows, you will spend years building and destroying your progress over and over again. That is why discipline is the only real anchor you have. It holds you steady when your emotions try to pull you in 10 different directions. It keeps you grounded when your feelings attempt to sabotage your goals. Without discipline, every challenge becomes heavier, every setback becomes personal, and every difficulty becomes a reason to quit. Your emotions turn obstacles into monsters and hardships into tragedies. But discipline does the opposite. It turns challenges into training, pain into growth, setbacks into fuel. It gives you the mental toughness to say, this is hard, but I continue. This hurts, but I push. This scares me, but I act anyway. Discipline transforms your entire perception of struggle. Instead of seeing pain as a signal to stop, you see it as a sign that you are becoming stronger. Instead of running from discomfort, you walk into it with purpose. Freedom is not the absence of difficulty. Freedom is the ability to face difficulty without losing yourself. Without discipline, emotions destroy that freedom. They bind you to habits that weaken you. They blind you to opportunities that require effort. They convince you that temporary comfort is better than long-term fulfillment. But the truth is the opposite. Comfort is a cage disguised as pleasure. It makes you feel safe while it slowly kills your ambition. Discipline breaks that cage. Discipline forces you out of the illusion that feeling good now is more important than becoming great later. People who lack discipline often think others have some magical advantage, more talent, more luck, better circumstances. But the difference is rarely talent or luck. The difference is discipline. The disciplined person feels the same exhaustion, the same fear, the same doubt, the same sadness. But he does not let those emotions decide his actions. That is what separates him from everyone else. That is what makes him stand out in a world full of people who quit as soon as something feels uncomfortable. Discipline gives you control over your own story. It teaches you how to manage your time, how to strengthen your habits, how to stay focused when distractions scream for your attention. It gives you the clarity to prioritize what matters, even when your emotions push you toward what is easy. And the more disciplined you become, the more freedom you gain. You gain the freedom to improve, the freedom to evolve, the freedom to rise above the noise of your own weaknesses. You will never escape your emotions. They are part of being human. But you can rise above them. You can feel fear and still act. You can feel doubt and still try. You can feel lazy and still move. That is the essence of discipline, doing what is required even when your emotions protest. And that is the essence of freedom, being in control of yourself instead of being controlled by every passing feeling. The strongest people on earth are not the ones who never feel weak. They are the ones who refuse to let weakness dictate their lives. They understand that emotions are temporary, but consequences are permanent. They understand that discipline is the bridge between who they are and who they want to become. And they understand that the moment they allow emotions to take the wheel, they lose control of the journey. So when you feel overwhelmed, when you feel tired, when you feel lost, remember this truth. Your emotions do not define you unless you allow them to. Discipline is the force that separates the person you are from the person you are capable of becoming. And without it, you surrender your power, your potential, and your freedom to feelings that were never meant to lead your life. Discipline is the foundation of freedom. Without it, you'll forever be a slave to your emotions. Your emotions will always try to steer you where it's safe, where it's easy, where nothing challenges you. They will whisper that you need rest when you haven't even begun, that you deserve comfort when you haven't earned anything yet, that you should slow down when this is the exact moment you need to push harder. Emotions change like the wind. One moment they empower you, and the next they betray you. If you build your life on feelings, your life will collapse every time those feelings shift. That is why discipline is not just important. It is essential. It is the only thing capable of guiding you with consistency while your emotions pull you in every direction at once. A disciplined person doesn't ignore emotion. He simply refuses to let it command him. He feels fear but acts anyway, feels doubt but continues anyway, feels tired but shows up anyway. This is the mindset that creates greatness. Because greatness has never come from a place of emotional comfort. It comes from the battlefield of self-control, from the relentless decision to rise even when your heart feels heavy. Without discipline, your emotions become your rulers. When you feel insecure, you won't try. When you feel overwhelmed, you'll quit. When you feel discouraged, you'll hide. Your entire life becomes a reaction instead of a creation. You let your circumstances dictate your identity. And you let your mood dictate your destiny. People who live emotionally become trapped in cycles they don't understand. They wonder why they can't stay consistent, why they can't follow through, why they never reach the next level. It's because their emotions are running the show, and emotions have no loyalty. They don't care about your future, they don't care about your potential, and they definitely don't care about the promises you made to yourself. Discipline, however, is loyal. Discipline protects your future, even when your emotions try to destroy it. Freedom begins the moment you stop letting your emotions decide who you become. Real freedom is waking up knowing that you control your actions no matter what mood you're in. Real freedom is having the power to say no to impulses that weaken you and yes to habits that build you. Real freedom is having a mind that refuses to be tossed around like a leaf in the wind. But that only happens when discipline becomes your foundation. Discipline is the voice inside you that says, I don't care how you feel. This is what needs to be done. It is the force that keeps your goals alive when your emotions try to suffocate them. It is the shield that protects your purpose from the chaos of momentary feelings. Every moment of growth requires discipline. When your body wants to rest, but your goals need effort, discipline is the bridge. When your mind wants to quit, but your future demands progress, discipline is the anchor. When your heart feels overwhelmed, but your spirit knows you must continue, discipline is the warrior that steps forward. This is why the strongest people in life are not the ones who never feel emotional. They are the ones who refuse to be controlled by emotion. They experience the same storms as everyone else, but discipline keeps them moving while others retreat. They feel the same fear, but discipline overrides the paralysis. They feel the same sadness, but discipline keeps them built on action rather than collapse. Your emotions are not the enemy. They are simply not qualified to lead your life. They are signals, not commands. They are experiences, not instructions. Without discipline to filter them, you will live in a constant state of internal conflict, always torn between your feelings and your goals. With discipline, however, you create harmony. You allow yourself to feel, but you do not allow those feelings to derail you. You acknowledge your emotions, but you obey your principles. You become guided by purpose rather than impulses. This is what real strength looks like. Not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of emotion. Not the denial of feeling, but the discipline to continue regardless of feeling. The world trains people to chase comfort, to chase quick pleasure, to chase emotional safety, but all those things lead to weakness. Discipline, on the other hand, leads to power. It leads to clarity. It leads to a level of freedom that people who live emotionally will never understand, the freedom of self-control. And the truth is this: discipline is the highest form of self-love, because it demands that you choose what is best for your future instead of what feels good in the moment. It forces you to rise above emotional chaos and take ownership of your life. It shapes you into someone dependable, someone solid, someone strong. Without it, your emotions will drag you into a life of regret. With it, you rise into a life of purpose. And once you experience that kind of freedom, you will never again allow your emotions to hold the throne that belongs only to discipline. In the end, everything you desire, every victory, every transformation, every version of yourself you dream about comes down to one decision. Will you let your emotions rule you, or will you take command of your own life? Because the truth is simple. Your emotions are temporary, but the consequences of surrendering to them are permanent. The person who lets fear, laziness, doubt, and insecurity dictate their actions will live a life filled with regret, wondering what could have been. But the person who chooses discipline rises above that noise. He becomes someone the world cannot break, someone his past cannot define, someone his emotions cannot control. Discipline is not punishment, it is liberation. It frees you from weakness, frees you from excuses, frees you from the small version of yourself that you were never meant to be. And once you understand that the war has always been within your mind, you realize that victory has always been within your reach. Stand tall, choose discipline, and step into the life that only the strongest version of you can create. Because freedom doesn't come from waiting, hoping, or feeling. It comes from conquering yourself